The Wind Blows, based on the book by Raymond Briggs. It's the story of a quiet country couple, Jim and Hilda Bloggs, whose cosy routine of endless cups of tea is disrupted by nuclear attack. The soundtrack is music by David Bowie, Hugh Cornwell, Genesis, Squeeze, but mainly ex-Pink Floyd person Roger Waters. Chris Salovich spoke to Waters and asked him first if he got the chance to see the film before he started work on the soundtrack.
I hadn't seen it until last week because one of the problems with animated films is that it's not like an ordinary movie where you have a production shoot and you shoot for 6 weeks or 8 weeks or 12 weeks, at the end of which time, after 2 or 3 days, an editor can produce a rough cut and then you see roughly what you've got. There are maybe 50 or 60 people drawing on an animated film, and they're working right up until the final day of the production schedule. So if you're doing a score, you don't see the film before you see some line tests and some coloured pictures and bits and pieces. Last week I saw it and I think it's very good.
But you read the book?
Oh, of course, yes. The book is staggering. But I mean, I've always liked all Raymond Briggs stuff, and so I wasn't surprised that the book is is 4 years old now. I think it was first published in 1982, as I recall.
Do you know any of the story of how this came to be made at this stage?
I think the film has been made on the back of the success of The Snowman. In fact, I know it's been made on the back of the success of The Snowman, which was also produced by John Coates. It's about a retired couple called Jim and Hilda Bloggs. Jim is the hero of another Briggs book called Gentleman Jim, which is about a lavatory attendant who decides to branch out and tries his hand at being a highwayman, which is another very nice book. So it's that couple, and they're retired, they're living somewhere near Brighton, and it's about what happens to them when a nuclear bomb is dropped on the centre of London.
I mean, it is depressing, I found, actually, the film anyway. I did find it immensely moving. Did you find it a bit of a downer?
When I watched it, of course, I was listening for the music and thinking, I was watching it in a way that hopefully an audience never would, because I was looking at it intellectually rather than emotionally. I mean, yes, I think it's quite depressing. But Raymond Briggs' humour is very compelling, and I think consistently lifts the film out of the possible troughs of morbidity that it could have sunk to with that. I mean, the whole thing is based entirely on his writing, and it's his writing that's central. And there's something very clever about it, about the way he writes. It makes a desperate story palatable. Just.
And of course they've read the government leaflet about what to do in case of a nuclear attack, that they will whitewash the windows, that they'll take the doors off and turn them into a shelter in the corner of the room, which is patently absurd, of course, but patently fatuous, and is exactly what we were told to do.
What's interesting about the thing about the civil defence and county council leaflets about what to do in the event of a nuclear attack is that I think they're a very good reference point for us all in the face of governmental directives, i.e., now in 1987, it's very easy to look at, although I'm sure these things still exist and maybe haven't changed very much over the last 15 or 20 years, it's very easy now to look at them and to ridicule them, which this film does. But there's a lesson to be learned that if you read stuff now that is more contemporary, it is the possibility exists that it's just as ludicrous, i.e. the fact that something's been put out by the government or by an elected body of some kind, so it may be worth nothing to anybody. We sometimes accept things and accept that they're valuable simply because they're official, or simply because they're expensive, or simply because we've seen them advertised on television.
But in fact, are you still involved in any way with CND?
No, apart from being involved in doing the soundtrack for this film, which is, I think, probably I think this movie hopefully will do something to help the cause of campaign for unilateral nuclear disarmament in this country, which I support.
You don't think it's just for the converted, then?
Oh God, I don't know. We'll have to wait and see, won't we? Maybe. It's the other team have a much better argument. It's much easier to put forward the argument that the horrible foreigners are going to jump on us if we don't have nuclear weapons to protect ourselves with. The unfortunate thing is that it's an untestable position. The arguments cannot be. There is no precedent. It seems to me that the conception of nuclear weapons as a way of preventing war seems laughable to me. I mean, I believe that it's erroneous, and that it probably doesn't work, and that probably what has prevented us having a global conflagration over the last 20 years, or 30 years, or 40 years since the last World War is something else. If it isn't, then CND and myself and anybody else who holds these beliefs are wrong, and the nuclear strategists are correct. Or an alternative possibility exists, which is that it did function and has functioned for a number of years, but that we may be moving into a period now where we, i.e. all the people in the world, have outgrown it as a notion, and that it is now more dangerous to us than it is actually useful.
Music from the soundtrack of the film When the Wind Blows by Roger Waters.